President Trump then didn't endorse anybody, but he let Cornyn fly on his plane. So maybe, that means something in the GOP race.
Yeah, I mean, we know with Epstein that when you fly on somebody's plane, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. Okay? It means nothing at
It's
all.
true.
So don't read
Nothing
into
at
it.
all.
Welcome everybody to the PredictIt podcast. I'm Jacob Studwell. I'm here with Garth Jacob. Garth, we have war to discuss, and it's not great. So many things to say, and so few things to report about, at least from the Trump camp. We got multiple videos from Mar-a-Lago. It's pretty weird that he's in Mar-a-Lago, right? I mean, that's just not me. Like, he's not in the situation
Is
room
it?
for a war. You're right.
He's always there.
Yeah, I know. You're right. It's not weird.
I mean, who says you can't do war and golf at the same time?
I mean,
It'd be like the most Trump thing ever, right?
It harkens back to the George Bush video, which I just saw this morning because everyone's reposting it. We will find terrorists everywhere they are. Now watch this drive.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. So we had no Trump surrogates on any of the Sunday morning shows. How much those matter, I don't know. I do think politically engaged independents watch those shows probably. Besides that, not too much else of the country does. We got a Pete Hegseth press conference this morning, which extended the estimate of the war by 1 week. So a day later, we got an extra week. So now it's like 6 weeks.
So 6 weeks. Oh, okay. The Daily Mail was reporting 4 weeks. Apparently he called in yesterday to talk to the Daily Mail from Mar-a-Lago, which I thought was an interesting choice. I mean, it is technically the #1 website in the world or something like that, online platform for news. But still, also sometimes known as a tabloid.
Sometimes,
to put it kindly.
I think it is for sure. I mean, he loves tabloids. We know
Trying
this.
to be kind.
Yeah. It's a tabloid. It's a tabloid that like could have news.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's slightly better than the Sun.
Right.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Or the Daily Inquirer. Is that the American one?
No, TMZ is like
TMZ?
the classic.
Okay.
But TMZ also has news like pretty often,
right.
At least for celebrity deaths generally and other
exactly.
deaths.
Yeah, that's what their Instagram is great for.
They're always first today. And they're always right, which is weird.
You got to carve out your corner. It's all about the niche.
They pay for info, like that's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. Like pay for news and you'll get it. So all right, back to Iran though.
Oh, well, so, okay. I have a quick comment on that. So I can't say I'm generally surprised that there weren't that many Trump surrogates out, because I think the amount of information that's available is scant. And from what I've seen so far this morning and following it over the weekend, which, by the way, heck of a thing to wake up to on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
That was like bright and early. Oh, so we've bombed Iraq. Or bombed Iran, excuse me. And
you're getting vertigo here.
Vertigo. And now I got to go make my children some pancakes. But yeah, no, I think they were starting to give out information out on Sunday, and there's supposed to be there's a briefing today, the Gang of 8, and then some more briefings tomorrow. And I think the picture is just nobody has any information per se, and it's been kind of really held on the down low.
Twitter's been really helpful in terms of war-based information, like very specific.
Yep.
What's being hit, what's kind of going on, generally, what's the strategy here. I know to this point, the U.S. has not been able to dismantle any Iranian missile systems. So we're still kind of trying to intercept as many missiles as possible, which is the main stockpile that goes blank the fastest. So we had a few weeks of missile defense stockpiles, and now we have something like 10 days of that left.
Technically, the information is classified, so I think everybody's guessing a little bit here. So it's, I think it's we'll see. I mean, I thought it was interesting that in that call with the Daily Mail, he mentioned it'd be 4 week engagement, and then you're saying now that Hegseth said 6 weeks. I mean,
Yeah. He
it's if
said
you're
4 to 5 with the New York Times, and then Hegseth said
okay.
6. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think things will become much more clear in the next 2-3 days. I mean, we have to have some dust settle to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to be all very, 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 very new,
Yeah, I
at
think
least
the New York
information
Times
wise.
interview was helpful because it gave you Trump's frame of mind. So he just did a call with the New York Times. He referred
Right.
back to Venezuela as much as possible. He said this should be like Venezuela. We should use Venezuela as a model.
Yep.
Interesting enough, if you ask anybody with any amount of intelligence on at least just the Middle East, not even Venezuela, they will tell you that Iran is nothing like Venezuela. It has
Right.
many different populations of people. It has a very complex military system. It's all over the place. It's not,
Right.
you cannot just take out the leader, make the second leader capitulate and move on with your day. We've already taken
Right.
out the Ayatollah. We've taken out other commanders. I think Trump also said that who he would have liked to take over the country was also killed in the strike that we killed the Ayatollah with, which was an interesting slip. Probably something you shouldn't tell everyone is like, we accidentally killed the guy that we wanted. But this definitely.
I mean that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, that's what we call collateral damage, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
you can't take out the supreme leader and not give it away that you're going to attack them, and you're going to have people in the room that you probably shouldn't or wouldn't want in there. But how often do you have that said opportunity, and with having that much surprise on your side, right?
Yeah.
It's
And speaking of collateral damage, because we should get to collateral damage on the American people, on his approval rating, on the midterms, because yes, it's a very big and important war for the entire world, but we're at PredictIt. We care about elections and markets.
yeah.
So,
Texas and North Carolina are tomorrow.
yeah, they're really kind of taking a back seat here. I'm curious, probably deeper into the primary cycle, Iran will become a huge point of contention in the Republican Party more so, probably in the Democratic Party. I think it'll be easy to be anti-war from the Democratic standpoint. You can kind of just point to Iraq and say, we don't want that. It's actually a very easy political game to play. But if you are Ken Paxton or you're John Cornyn, and this does go to a runoff, this could be a
Yeah.
very large wedge issue, and you might have to read the tea leaves. We've seen some early indications of some factions of MAGA, at least. Nick Fuentes was, and I hate saying his name on the pod, apologies, but was railing against this war decision, saying nobody should vote in the midterms. They should sit out the midterms. So look out for more voter turnout suppression on the Republican side.
Okay.
But we should also talk about two very popular markets on PredictIt that we've never talked about on the pod are the Real Clear Politics job approval rating market and the DDHQ job approval rating market. They're a little bit offset. So the RCP right now is what will be on March 4th. Then the DDHQ is what will be on March 6th. And I'll pop up some of the screenshots here of the actual, approval poll aggregators and averages. We did get a Reuters Ipsos poll that was taken over the weekend, so from the 28th to the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The approval was down to 38%. So if you're looking at taking a position here, right now the money's all on 43.3% or higher, and that's because the average is at 43.4%. I would jump probably even further down from that. I would go down to like 42.7 to 42.9, or maybe even 42.4 to 42.6, which are at 25 cents and 17 cents. And you can even add the lower rungs as well, like a few of them, just to make yourself feel a little bit better, because those are 3 cents and 1 cent. Just to give yourself some padding. But if the Reuters Ipsos poll is any what indicative of, or indicative of, what polls we're going to see later on, I don't know, at least in terms of Democratic approval is low single digits, impressive to get any number that low. Independent approval is at 29%. Again, pretty low given that a good chunk of those independents voted for Donald Trump. And Republican approval is like 80%. Again, solidly low, at least in terms of Republican numbers that we've seen
Right.
in the past. So I don't know, Garth, is there any way, it's really hard to predict like what polls are coming out, but I'm sure lots of polls are being taken right now.
We don't know what to expect. I mean, we joked about this on the podcast previous episodes about, you know, what January brought, all the chaos, and things kind of settled a little bit in February. And then now we're jumping into March, and we've got another conflict, um, you know, a much bigger conflict. Venezuela came by the flight of night, and it was over effectively. Iran is the Middle East, and we have, I guess you would say, more recent history in the Middle East, at least for most voters. They'll recognize the things that have happened, whether it be what happened in Afghanistan, the pullout under the Biden administration, being the most recent big event, if you will.
Yeah.
Our
Voters are
wars in the early
generally
2000s.
Middle Eastern averse, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've been brought up on this, if you will. So yeah, I can't see how this helps his ratings in any measurable way. I think the initial reaction for most Americans is going to be a negative one. And at what a time to come alive. I mean, just before the Texas primaries, which are really big, as we've talked about. Is this going to sway the voter pool in any meaningful way? And I imagine every political analyst is going to be, sifting through the tea leaves here for any piece of information that allows them to better understand, how this focus on a global perspective is shaping the midterm race or races.
I will say there are certain kryptonites for Donald Trump, and one of them has been military families in particular. If we go back to the
Yep.
Gold Star family moment, we've now announced that it's now the death toll is up to 4 Americans who have died in combat. He was very brazen. He's not touchy with this stuff. He said there will be more deaths, or likely will be more, I think was the exact phrasing.
Yep.
Americans don't like to hear that.
No, of course not.
I think there's just so many different pieces here that this is going to touch. So we have military. Then let's get to the oil prices. The Strait
Mm-hmm.
of Hormuz is now closed. Oil production is now down. It looks like oil prices are up 10% as of recording this. Gas prices are going
Yep.
to go up pretty quickly, I would imagine. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because that was like the biggest win of the State of the Union. Most people tune into the State of the Union for the first 5-10 minutes. That was one of the
Yep.
main openers, was gas prices are so low, yada, yada,
Yep.
yada. Gas prices are going to start climbing. This is going to kind of spiral pretty quickly, and he already started with a low approval rating.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out the other tentacles here of
Well, I mean,
Bill.
currency.
Yeah.
Currency is a good one. people should rush to either gold or to, increasing the value of the dollar, which obviously then hits our import export business, which will
Mhm.
touch on countless numbers of, large corporations or small businesses. Anybody who's doing business, beyond, I mean, the dollar increasing, that's been one of Trump's things, is to make the dollar as weak as possible to, work on the trade gap. So that's also one to watch. I mean, I'm somebody who's obviously kind of sensitive to such a topic
Yeah.
with my living situation and so on and so forth. But yeah, that should be interesting to watch as well.
And I do think another piece is that the cabinet is probably going to be more stable in times like this. You don't normally fire
Definitely.
people in situations like this. So,
Yep.
unless somebody leaves, like we were talking about Nome leaving on her own accord to go run in South Dakota, she probably, I mean, maybe she's more likely to do it because the administration is a little bit more under fire. But in terms of like Kash Patel getting blowback from celebrating with the U.S. men's hockey team, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Pam Bondi's going to go anywhere. There's going to be probably more stability in times like this, but I don't see a rally around the flag effect happening here because we haven't sold the reason. All you have to do is
Right.
sell the purpose and sell the reason. And he spent 3 hours of a State of the Union saying everything but what we were going to do in Iran. He mentioned that we were working on diplomacy, and that didn't come to fruition. We ended up bombing them after they
Sure.
had made the biggest concessions since 2015 in the Iran nuclear deal. But I don't think that he's sold it well enough, and I don't think like he might spend the next week selling it well enough that we can kind of just be back to where we were in terms of the approval trajectory, and that's
Right.
fine. I just don't know how you sell this, given that we've already taken out the leader, we've already done the number one thing that at least normal Americans would say, well, we took out their leader, right? And now this is going to drag on for weeks further. And it's kind of like,
Right.
do we even know that they have nuclear capabilities? We're back to sort of an Iraq conversation of, but what are we doing here? What's Where are we
Right.
ending up? So it's a lot of dancing around possibilities, and that's why I think this episode will probably be much shorter because we're in a weird limbo zone right now.
Definitely a huge limbo zone, and I can understand. I mean, from what I've been able to read and glean from the situation, it was definitely a two-track, you know, system going on here, right? You're trying the diplomacy. Let's see if we can get Iran to agree to, something that we really want, right? And if they don't, we will take care of the rest, and because we've already moved ourselves into such a position where we're going to act, or we're
Mm-hmm.
going to put ourselves in a position where it won't be hard to act, right? So
Yeah.
when we move two carrier groups, we do the talking, we keep the surprise available,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then when they come back and you check it with multiple sources, whether it be in the intelligence services against what is going on in Geneva, and you sit there and you say, okay, well, if this doesn't check, this is probably the game plan that Iran is trying to do and drag things out, and they don't want to, and they're not taking this seriously, so we're going to act because that was already the plan in place, and maybe the decision was already made in December after the protests and the response from the Revolutionary Guard. Maybe Trump sat there and said, this is a great opportunity for my legacy building, right? Because he's second term president, this has been his MO since he's been in office for the most part. I mean, a lot of the things that he has been doing. Then you can also harken back to last summer and the initial attack on the nuclear facilities,
Right.
and maybe that not going as well as he had hoped, or at least not having the
That's really been
effect
lost,
that he
Garth, right?
wanted.
In the skirmish here was
Yeah.
not a successful strike. I think it's pretty objective to say that now that
Well,
we're back in Iran,
I
right?
think I think it's less black and white than that. I think it was more of the first step in a plan of, okay, let's do something big. Okay, we didn't like what happened in 2015 with the Obama deal. and we want to really do something. I mean, Trump, in many ways, for good and bad, thinks in bigger terms, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, if he can bring some sort of, stability to the Middle East, right? And, Iran is like, the creme de la creme here, right? If he can solve
Stability
that,
central. Yeah. Yeah.
right, and create stability for the region, then holy crap. I mean, his, in the record books or the history books, will sit there and say Trump is one of these great presidents. Um, Obviously there's a
Right,
lot of
but Garth, he
water under
doesn't
the
have enough
bridge.
political capital for this stuff, right? He doesn't have that
He
much
doesn't seem to
time
care.
before the midterms,
He
and
doesn't seem to care.
no,
But
he
look how
doesn't
he's
seem to. Yeah.
look how he's acting. I mean, we opened with the fact that no surrogates were on television on Sunday.
Hmm.
Everybody's being read in effectively after the fact.
Yeah.
It's he's going to do. Look at the tariffs. He's going to push as many boundaries as he possibly can and say, "Oh, oops, I'm sorry. I'll rein it back in." But he's already done the thing, right? Whether it be Doge, whether it be any military actions, this has kind of been what he's been doing since he's been in second term, since he's been back in office at the White House. So it doesn't really surprise me, and I don't think he cares
Hmm.
so much. Um, it just kind of he's very simple in this way, where he's got the goal and he's setting out to do it in his way.
Yeah, he doesn't have to care, but at some point, Republicans will go into self preservation mode. And self preservation mode means that they are looking to keep their jobs at any
Yeah.
cost. They don't care if they start to disagree with Trump. They don't care. Maybe this war powers resolution has legs. And we were going to
Mm-hmm.
get to that. I think we have two new markets on war powers resolutions in both the House and the Senate. On face value, it didn't look like it really had legs, just because you have a certain faction of Democrats who are pro action in Iran. You have obviously, 90% of Republicans who are with the president in all walks of life. But as
Yep.
soon as, I don't know, approval ratings have to get to 30%, probably. I don't know. It's hard to kind of
Do do
judge
you
when.
think do you think they'll drop that low?
I would be pretty shocked if they dropped that low.
Me too. I just
I would
you
be pretty
can't.
shocked.
There's too many people in the Trump camp, too many
Yeah.
voters that are already in the Trump camp. So, if he could do all of these things and he's still scoring a 38%,
Hmm.
I mean, that's basically, 4 in 10 Americans are like, yeah, that's Trump.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
It's
And
just, just gas prices and, maybe inflation ramps up again. Like, is there something that could hurt the Trump camp, or probably not? Is
I
it is
mean,
it
you have to
hundreds
have
of dead
some.
Americans on the battlefield? Like, you kind of have to think a little bit outside of the box to get
No,
to
because
that 30% number.
it's always the economy.
Yeah.
It's always the economy. And if inflation on this, okay, inflation would have to jump five,
Yeah.
6%,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you would have the gas prices would have to be high, and then your grocery bill is increasing, and then, you can't get a mortgage because the rates are at 6, 7, 8, 10%. I always like to joke. My dad likes to joke with me. He's like, "Well, yeah, you got a mortgage. You're paying 2%. Oh, it's free money." It's like I can remember a time when I was paying 12%.
Right.
And so a lot of Americans have this short-term memory of like what the hardship, and
Yeah. My mom's a
mortgage
mortgage
rates
broker.
are
She's
falling.
so on this tune. Like, she always talking about how cheap mortgages are, even though, nobody
I,
wants to
I mean,
admit to.
but they're going down. They're not going up right now. The inflation is relatively steady. I mean, so people can buy houses, or the environment for buying houses is getting better on the surface. It's not, that people are getting used to the prices to a certain degree. They might not like them, but
That's true.
they're not yo-yoing like crazy. So you know,
I
there
will
has to
say
be
it's
something
it's
far more
hurting young
significant.
Americans, and I actually think young Americans as they step more and more into voting age, are
Yeah.
going to define the electorate more and more. And I think that's why things like a blue Texas are possible, because you have an aging out and an aging in of certain things.
Sure.
And that's kind of
Sure.
the natural cycle. Now, are they going to age in and the same portion of the population that is of young voters are going to be Trump people? Maybe,
Right.
but maybe not. Like maybe there is
Right.
something that affects them so deeply, and not being able to buy a house in their lifetime, or not feeling like they can buy a house in their lifetime,
Yeah.
will probably stratify them. And I don't know if they're going to blame both parties and they might just not
Right.
vote, or they could blame the
Apathy. Yeah.
people who are claiming as much power as possible, which is, the Trump MO. So let's go back to the war powers resolutions, because there is
Yeah.
some trading on these. These are very, very new, so low volume generally, but the will House vote to restrict use of force on Iran by June 30th. Right now, the yes price is at 80 cents. So we're
Yep.
seeing a lot of traction in the House. It looks like the House can all get on board. We'll see Roe and Massey kind of gather up their band of brothers and maybe have this. So that vote is going to be on Thursday. That's very much too high a price for me. I actually think the no is probably a good buy here. Remember, Republicans do hold the House, and they have a Republican president who's doing these things. So I think 23
Yeah.
cents probably a solid. I wouldn't buy too much more expensive than that, the no contract, but I do like the no there. We have the Senate. Right now it's a little wonky again because it's low volume. The best offer is
Yeah.
64 cents. For will the Senate restrict the use of force? The latest yes price was 3 cents. So if it was 3 cents, I would buy. If it was 64 cents, I definitely wouldn't buy. But the no is at 70 cents as well. Again, some weird pricing here. But where would you price the Senate if we're assuming there's lower volume in the Senate and there's a little bit more uncertainty? Do you think you would buy the yes in the Senate at like 30 cents?
No. I think a lot of the noise that you're hearing, and a total shout out to Kahana and Massey as the most unlikely duo that are hanging out all the time and
They're
making
going to run for
serious
president
noise.
together, right, Garth? They're definitely going to run
They
for
have
president
to.
together.
They have
Yeah.
to. It's your split ticket right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, I find it interesting. They've really kind of grabbed the headlines for the last 5, 6 months. I'll call it six
Yeah,
months. I
it's
mean, they
impressive.
have been everywhere, and so they're jumping on this because this is the type of thing that they would jump on, and they're going to force a vote, and that's the thing that they care about, and the thing that they're able to do. I think what we've seen so far, because of the lack of information, it's really hard to predict where this is going to go. Again, I think I
Mm-hmm.
go back to the comment I made about I think we need to get through today and tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
probably, once those briefings are completed. And I don't think there's a drumbeat yet. Not
Yeah,
enough information for anybody to stick their neck out
right.
on this. And I think the people who have stuck their neck out are, you're going to have your Democrats. Crockett came out and said something. Tallarico came out and said something. The Republican senators are backing the president for the most part. There's just not nearly enough information. I would say that unless something comes out of these briefings that's like, oh, whoa, we got to stop this, I think it's no on both quite strongly here.
Fair. That's fair. So let's go over to. There's still a partial government shutdown. I flew into the
Who knew?
country and I wasn't able to use global entry, so that was fun. But the the shutdown market,
Mm-hmm.
89 cents for March 10th or later. I will prop up a
Yeah.
new set of contracts at some point. It's ironic to start a war and then also not fund the Department of Homeland Security,
Yeah. Yeah.
the branch of the
Especially
U.S.
with a country,
government that's protecting
especially
us.
with a country known for financing terrorism.
Yeah, and actually, it's a good
That's
point. There was a shooting in Austin over the weekend, and there are suspicions that that was related to the Iranian strikes. So this
okay.
might start to become a little bit more of a storyline. I don't know if journalists will necessarily pick up the pieces and put them together. But the Austin shooting is something to watch as they investigate further.
Well, it's interesting. I think there was a
Like,
comment about out from the Hill earlier this morning about kind of there's a a proposal given from the White House to Senate and House Democrats
mhm.
leadership, and it was interesting to hear the tone in which Jeffries and Schumer were taken, as instead of, for the last 2 weeks, it's been like, no, go away, no, go away, no, go away. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, we're reviewing the proposal because, the last things the Democrats want to have here, and think about how this would impact the midterms.
Hmm.
Something bad really, truly happens because of what happened in Minnesota, right? So the Democrats have this very real reason to be hanging on and fighting for this, these changes with DHS and the funding of DHS. And then something happens because Iran is now retaliating,
Yeah.
and it's because the Democrats have the government shut down.
I
Oof,
would actually
that
sew
would
this up
be,
pretty quickly if I were them. I don't think
well,
this
that
is
that's
worth the battle anymore, right? I mean,
no,
you can kind of tuck your tail between your legs and just kind of sign it, and I don't think it's going to get too many
I
heads
don't think
or
yeah,
lookers. So I would actually like close this as soon as possible. And Chuck
yeah,
knows that. Like Chuck is smart
mm,
enough to know, like, okay, we've
yeah,
got another fire, so we can put out this one so that it's like a little bit at least clean. And
yeah.
so the March 4th to March 6th contract of will Trump sign a bill to end or avert the shutdown is at 30 cents. So that would be, yeah, I mean that's right when they come back into session. Again, they're on vacation. Congress is always on vacation. I don't know why they're on vacation, but they are. Uh,
Yep, yep.
I think it's like, I don't know, they call it like spring week.
Spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning, right? Of course, spring cleaning. So we've got to work together to get into Congress. We've got to get this job. It's the best job ever.
Oh my God, ever.
So so I think they should sign it as soon as possible. And again, I think the Democrats know that. So I'd be interested in buying that March 4th to March 6th contract. Right now, again, best offer is 30 cents. Latest offer was 3 cents. So maybe you can get somewhere in between there,
Mm-hmm.
something cheaper.
Yep,
It'd be interesting. Look, all the money is on March 10th or later, and I don't know if that's kind of just like no one's been talking about it, so all the money just has to be
exactly.
sitting there. But as soon as
Yep.
somebody starts talking about it, these things happen quick. Like let's not discount
Mm.
that. Chuck can kind of get a
Oh,
deal as soon as possible.
yeah, I mean, you coming back and saying, okay, we're reopening the government because of security reasons, and yeah, I mean, you can hug that reason all day long, and nobody will sit there and say, okay, well, we domestic terrorism, we stopped it. You know,
Right.
DHS is, I mean, the whole ICE thing is small fish at this point.
Let's close out with our final Texas, North Carolina thoughts. My final thoughts are I do think Tallarico is going to pull this off on the day of. I do want to talk about Ahmad Hassan, but he
Son,
could cause the runoff if he takes enough of a vote share and the race is close enough. I do think Tallarico is going to pull this off, and I also think the Republican side, as expected, will go to a runoff. I think Ken Paxton will take the number one spot. I don't think Wesley Hunt will necessarily endorse Paxton right away. Might wait a little
mm.
bit. You think he will?
No, I don't. Hard to tell. I think the one bit I wanted to make a comment on, which I thought was potentially telling, was that Cornyn flew on Air Force One with the
Mhm.
president to
Mhm.
Texas. I mean, I obviously get the idea, but you can read into that however you like. But
Mhm.
it's interesting that President Trump then didn't endorse anybody, but he let Cornyn fly on his plane. So maybe that means something in the GOP race.
Yeah, I mean, we know with
But
Epstein that when you fly on somebody's plane, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. Okay, it means nothing at
it's
all.
true.
So don't read
Nothing
into
at all.
it.
This is true. This is true. But there's an Emerson pullout on Sunday. Uh, Cornyn or Paxton's up by 4 points. Yeah, it's a tight one. But I think Paxton has, in many ways, home court advantage. And I think he definitely pulls out the first round for sure. And if it's close, then I think Cornyn might end up winning in May, but it has to be
Mhm.
close. I think it should be interesting how much of a spoiler Hunt
Yeah.
plays tomorrow.
And I think we'll do we'll do a really good hindsight situation in which, oh my God, Paxton isn't as strong as we thought he was, and maybe that's because of
Right.
Iran, and people didn't come out to vote on
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday because they're kind of mad at the president and they didn't vote for the MAGA darlings. So it'll be
Right.
fun to do the recap. So everyone should really tune in next week.
Right. Or Cornyn spent all that money and it actually did something,
It
which
worked,
is
right?
kind of usually what happens in politics, right? You spend a crap ton of
Typically,
money, it gets people to vote for you.
yeah.
So, and his
And that's why I
advantage
think
on fund and
Talarico,
spending is
same
crazy.
story. Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. Follow us on X at the PredictIt Pod, on YouTube, youtube.com/at PredictIt Official. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on our radio. I think that's everywhere. Thanks everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. And stay safe out there.
All right. See you.